In reality, the brain doesn't change that much. So you have to do work to change it. And really that number is that a lot of times is what you're born with. It's who you are, it's a snapshot of you. So then the goal is to change, improve. But it doesn't change that much, it takes work to change that. And so some people are naturally slower on their brain speed and naturally faster on their, or deeper on their voltage. Some people are vice versa. So really the idea is to know who you are and then optimize that to get back to a 20-year-old brain, which is about the peak. But brain speed, brain voltage, all these peaks that are up to it. So the goal is to find out who you are and try to go back in time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Life to the Max podcast with your hosts,
Janna
and Evan DeMarco. So about a month ago, we were in Las Vegas and we're walking around the A4M conference and we ended up at this booth where we ended up with these goofy things on our heads, and you guys are going to see some pictures of that. Well, it turns out, it might be one of those things you see behind you. So, turns out that we happened upon a booth for WAVi, and I am so excited to be back here in my home state of Colorado. We were just in your city last week, so we traded in the warm weather of San Diego for the cold weather of Colorado, and we are here at the WAVi corporate office in. Are we in Inglewood?
We're in Inglewood. Sheridan, Colorado.
With David Oakley. So, David, thank you so much for having us here. Thank you so much for scanning our brains. So let's start with that in Vegas, which was interesting because what we found is that she's got a lot of work to do.
She did her work. She's better today.
I'm doing some work, so.
Clearly, I've got a lot of work to do. So as we talk about our road to Costa Rica, our followers know this, that we're taking a bunch of vets to Costa Rica to participate in ayahuasca to really see if that has an impact on PTSD. And one of the things we're really excited to work with you guys on is this recognition that we can objectively see performance increases in a brain pre and post intervention. Whether ayahuasca helps with that remains to be seen, but I'd love to get a little bit of background on you, this amazing company, and how you guys are really kind of bringing data into the hands of the people so that they can start to optimize their own brain function.
Yeah, that's. I'm interested in the ayahuasca thing because what we find is that I'm just a physicist, so I just look at the patterns, but there's a different pattern, and the idea is, can you break that pattern? It takes intervention, like we talked about earlier. It takes something, the brain has to be kicked into a different state. And so we're curious to see what comes out of that. Can that change their state?
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Breaking that cycle, yeah.
And our job is easy. We just look for the patterns and we can tell you, is there a change?
So these things behind us, tell us a little bit about how, what's the history behind this company?
Well, I don't know if you want to know. It's a long sordid history. This is my midlife crisis right here. I was happily doing
some people get a sports car. This is kind of a...
Yeah, it really was. Just happily teaching physics and doing neutrino astrophysics was my specialty. So I don't know what
hold on. Neutrino astrophysics to this.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now I'm excited.
Yeah, David Oakley, our chief engineer, showed me a brain pattern once upon a time. And I was intrigued. This is a voltage versus time, very similar to the neutrino signals we got. We knew how to handle those signals. I thought, well, this could be interesting. We could help people. We could create a business. And that was my crisis.
But so you created these. You started developing these helmets, basically. I saw something in there, this progression of these head devices. So that was pretty amazing here.
Yeah, we started, it's a team effort, but David Oakley, the chief engineer I talked about, he's mainly working on the software and the signal analysis. He's been doing this forever. I was working on the headsets, and we started with a really nice, complicated design that could automatic impedance, automatic everything, dry electrodes.
Is that the one that looks like a medieval torture device?
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people say that. I'm fond of that. But what we end up doing is getting simpler and simpler and simpler and refining everything so that this ended up being the simplest design, the least expensive. It was just as fast as the fast, cool thing I invented. And so you ended up going the simple route. Easy to make, easy to put on, as you found out. So that was the hard part of this company, taking this complicated, all this potential and making it simple. What's the simplest number of pieces we need? what's the simplest algorithms we can use to analyze the brain. So that was our big effort. For 10 years, it was trying to simplify what's already out there.
And so there are these prompts that are attached to the inside of these, and we got to try this out today. And there are these things touching all different parts of your brain. So can you explain what those are and how that works and what it's actually focusing on there?
We don't like to call them prongs. We call them socks.
Socks.
Brain socks.
Brain socks.
Of all words, socks. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that's part of the thing. This technology's been around a long time. If you go to a hospital and get an EEG, they'll work on your scalp a lot. Glue the glue electrodes onto your scalp, and your hair will look like it's been birds have attacked it. So our goal was to just simplify the whole process. So what these do, it's the socks measure the voltage coming from your cortex of your brain, the surface of your brain, goes through your scalp, and we simply measure that voltage. And very simple. It's been around for a long time, but that's the hard part, making it simple.
Right.
And how is this different than the EEG that you get at the hospital?
It's, according to the FDA, substantially equivalent. So it has to be the same, according to our FDA filing. So this is the same as the hospital grade.
Gotcha.
Same signals and all.
So you guys have taken, an equivalent device, which is, basically something that a patient or anyone who's really interested in their brain health could go into a practitioner, get hooked up to this machine for, 4 to 6 minutes of a test?
And then 4 minutes. Yeah.
4 minutes, and then get this data. So you guys provide this data, but what does someone do with that?
That's the question. There's so many different uses. So the idea was to create a report that the doctors could use and get reimbursed on. But then also that a fitness group or biohackers could take their report and have action. So each report is customized for whatever the action item is. For example, our sports concussion study that we've done, the report that comes out of that is the usual brain voltage, which declines with concussion, reaction time, which also declines with concussion. But also we put in some tension markers, jaw and neck tension, because a lot of concussions are whiplash. So they wanted to see that. Did the person really have a concussion, or do they need a massage? So that report was customized for that group of people. The report you had today was customized for people that are trying new interventions to see if they can improve their brain. No diagnosis, no categories of disease state, but can you improve your brain? So that report was customized for you.
And what did we learn or what did you learn looking at our 2 tests today?
I learned that you improved and you're about the same.
I love hearing that for some reason.
I feel like she's going to just cut this and put it in a loop on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in big trouble. Yeah.
Wait, so somebody said, what's your brain age?
23.
Okay, and mine is 50.
Ooh.
Yeah, old man Jensen. So one of the things we actually talked about was that you guys have this unique, shall we say, algorithm that quantifies a brain age based off of the things that you're looking at. And to me, this is a fascinating thing, right? Because your brain could change probably one day to the next. And that's optimizations like sleep, diet, nutrition, all the things that we know are healthy. So does that brain age really give someone a benchmark to shoot from? And then, what, based off of your experience, can people do to truly optimize that brain age?
Yeah, glad you brought that up. In reality, the brain doesn't change that much. So you have to do work to change that number. And really that number is that a lot of times it's what you're born with. It's who you are. It's a snapshot of you. So then the goal is to change, improve. But it doesn't change that much. It takes work to change that. And so some people are naturally slower on their brain speed and naturally faster or deeper on their voltage. Some people are vice versa. So really the idea is to know who you are and then optimize that to get back to a 20-year-old brain, which is about the peak of brain speed, brain voltage, all those peaks that are up 20. So the goal is to find out who you are and try to go back in time to 20. So you may never have a 23-year-old brain. You may have not been.
Oh, you just did the gauntlet down. Now it's on.
Yeah.
I'm coming back
But
tomorrow
you can't
for a
improve.
23-year-old brain.
Yeah, you can improve. That's the point.
So then, you talk about improving. How often should someone scan with one of of these so that they could really see whether or not the interventions that they're doing are making a difference?
That's a really good question. For me, it's most important to scan every 3 to 4 months. Long-term changes are what I'm interested in. Can you have a stable long-term change? On day-to-day, you can change if you certain substances, like if you take beta blockers, that'll wipe out all of this, slow everything down, which is good for some people. So if you take those kind of interventions, you can change on a daily basis. But what I'm interested in is your daily routine, long-term, does it change after 3 months?
So
Now you've had a lasting change.
Yeah. So the last time we took this test was about a month ago, right? So can you actually see a lot of change within a month's time, or not really? I mean, like obviously we have different markers today than that time, but can you really see?
But you did. I didn't. I don't change. I'm a grumpy old man.
Apparently. I'm just
But that's
thinking.
okay. There's something to be said for grumpy old men.
Yeah. Well, now
The older I get, the more fond I am of grumpy old men.
Perfect. I'm just thinking, in a month's time, can you really see if something is working for you? If you were to change one thing, like let's say I never meditated before in my life, and then for a month straight after I did this test, would there be enough change there to be noticeable in another just a month later?
I think that's meaningful. To give an example, if you have a concussion, your voltage drops. It's like a clock, it just drops. And then it usually recovers in about a month for most. Some people recover in a week. So that in that kind of situation, a month is definitely big changes. I threw the number out 3 months because that interests me, because 2 months later, would that be lasting, whatever you're doing? That's when the acute becomes chronic, so a chronic improvement meditation. If you stop now, would you go back? So I would like to see you come back in 2 months and
Right.
it stays.
start meditating.
See if it sticks.
I know I have to. It sounds like I need to.
So, we talk about in this world of biohacking, all of these things that people are doing, whether it's red light therapy or cryotherapy or PEMF, and it really becomes, those interventions become very subjective, right? It's really people telling us how they feel. But for the first time, I think in a long time, you guys have created a device that allows people to objectively measure what it is that they're doing for one of the most important parts of longevity, which is our brain health. So how does someone go about making WAVi a part of their health span?
That's fun. I like all that stuff people are trying. And I think people need to try everything. Do WAVi before they try it. Whenever we have all of our people that work here, they're always WAVing before they make a change. And it's fun to see what works, but everybody's different. That's the important part of this. Is you do.
And everyone responds so differently to different changes.
Right. So find out what works for you. And
So for our listeners, they're going to go to, can they go to the WAVi website and find a practitioner that offers?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And currently, how many practitioners are utilizing this equipment nationwide?
Probably a couple hundred, I'm guessing,
Okay.
and growing.
And growing rapidly.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, they need to do it. That's a fun thing. Who would not want to know what improves your brain?
Right. But I think
I have work to do too, by the way. I'm with you. I won't do it.
you made a good point though, is to do it before you make a change. Because a lot of people, they make a change like, oh, I wonder if this worked for me. But you only really know if it worked if you had the markers beforehand
Right.
to see that. So it is important to have to see, how it works.
And people like seeing their brain. They just
Yeah,
love
we do.
knowing where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just loving all this stuff. It's so cool.
Wow. Jen is geeking out over here.
It's neat.
No, it's fascinating. So obviously we're going to see a lot of this equipment in use when we work with our disabled vets, our PTSD vets. What's your expectation? What's your thought that, is this going to be enough of a kick to get people into a place where we can objectively see improvements in PTSD, which from our previous conversation really can manifest as really low voltage. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? From the science side.
When we're doing studies like this, we have to be non-biased. I have to assume that whatever happens, happened. But my hypothesis is you'll see big changes. And if they feel different, we will be able to measure it, because obviously the brain's acting differently. So my hypothesis, there'll be big changes. I'm kind of excited to see what comes out of it.
We're stoked about it.
It'll be a good time.
Yeah. Good time in Costa Rica.
Lots of things to learn.
Yeah.
Lots of things to measure.
Anything else about the company you kind of want to tell us? What's the next 5 years look like for you guys?
The next 5 years, my goal is to start to create data archetypes for people. Once we get a lot of data, then we can start to archetype who are the people that do better with ayahuasca and PTSD, who are the people that don't, who are the people that are going to get Alzheimer's, who are the people that don't, who are the people that can prevent Alzheimer's by diet and exercise, who are the people that don't. So the more data we get, the more archetypes we can create. Who are the kids that are at risk for suicide? Who are the kids that have anxiety? So the more data we get, the more we learn. And this is a big community. So I love the data.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Brain health obviously is one of the most important aspects of our long-term health plan. You know, it's like we can talk about living to 150, but if this goes south, then it's kind of, what's the point? So when you build these archetypes, how do you take that data and then provide interventions for people who want to live to be 150 and have the best brain possible? Does that data incorporate what you guys believe someone could do hypothetically to improve brain function?
Yeah, and we don't do the interventions, but the data will be structured. It is structured such that we know what interventions people have done, and that way we can find the person can put their archetype and put their data in and see where they come out. So the interventions are very important as part of the data. We've got to know what's happening with these people, and we do. So knowing who you are and what you need.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What other questions here?
We covered so much earlier today. I mean, it's just so fascinating. I'd love for the listeners to know more about each specific portion of do one of these tests. What exactly are they seeing there? I know in the beginning there are three scales there where you're seeing information, and can you go over each section and what that's telling somebody when they do one of these tests?
So if there's different tests that we talked about. So if they're doing the FDA version of the software, which we're submitting in the next month, I hope, they will be getting the report that the doctors are used to using. They'll go over it with them. But the performance version, which is where we bring it into the biohacking community, is that what you call it?
So we call
No, we don't like the word biohacker.
Okay.
What do we like to call
What are
it?
you?
Biooptimization.
Okay, I like that. Okay. So the biooptimization group, you're not looking at disease states. So what you saw was a completely different report than what the doctor would get.
Mm-hmm.
And so your report is, the really simple idea is how fast is your brain making decisions. It's not a reptile brain we'll talk about in a minute. How fast does your brain do a calculation? How sure is it of the calculation? What cognitive resources did it commit to that task? And then how fast is your physical reaction time, which is the reptile brain. And then we give you, on your report, we have a stress marker. Are you anxious? Are you stressed? And then we give this HRV marker, which is another measure of either acute stress on a day-to-day basis or chronic stress. If it's chronic stress, there's something you really need to change that state.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the report, we had neck tension. Do you need a massage? So the report you saw is just a simple performance report.
I was very disappointed.
I need a massage.
Did you need one?
I got one yesterday. I got like a 3-hour massage yesterday, and I had a lot of tension there still, so I need to go back.
Yeah.
Or something.
Now we know what we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, about half the people have elevated neck tension because we sit forward all day.
Right.
I don't know if it's true, but I've been told we're more stressed than we were in generations in the past. I'm sure it feels like people are stressed.
I can believe
I think, you look at C-reactive protein, homocysteine, all of these are elevated markers, but I think I look at one of the biggest causes of stress, and that's our phone. It's interesting, like the research really dictates is that most people, when they wake up in the morning, the first thing that they do is look at their phone. So you've got blue light activation, you've got, cortisol,
Yeah.
It's like everything happens first thing in the morning, so we're now reactive. Our lives have become so reactionary, and then you've got blue light activation, so we're not waking up the way that we used to. Our melatonin switch is being forced off, cortisol is going on. So there's an alarming epidemic of cognitive decline coming simply as a result of these devices. And you ask people, like, what's the last thing you do before you go to bed? Look at your phone.
Mm-hmm.
We've interrupted our sleep patterns simply because of our phone that we didn't have just a generation ago.
And that's one simple thing that I need to change, by the way, but anybody can change. So that should change your brain's voltage, perhaps, because you have more cognitive resources. It could certainly change the brain speed. But my instinct is on that dashboard, it would change the brain voltage and the stress marker. So I'm curious, so if anybody wants to make that simple change, measure before, and then see what it does to that simple dashboard.
I read an alarming statistic that it was 24% of millennials surveyed said they actually get up in the middle of the night and check their phone.
Ooh.
Like they get up to check their phone?
Yeah, they'll get up in the middle of the night and start going through social media.
That's not good for your brain.
No, I mean, just the interruption of REM sleep and
Approval.
Even times I remember waking up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, like checking to see what time it is on my phone. Even just that light, I find stimulates my brain enough to where it keeps me. It's harder for me to get back to sleep versus if I were to just wake up and then
blue light activation.
Close my eyes.
Blue light is the thing that turns on your
very
cortisol
stimulating.
switch and shuts off your melatonin switch.
Yeah.
So, it's a fascinating thing. And even like, I know doctors, Dr. McCullough, I mean, he sleeps in a Faraday cage. Literally, like his room is like copper lined, for that reason. It's like no EMF.
What is that? Faraday?
It's a copper lined room, but
It's just physics.
Cool.
Well, I'm gonna try that, by the way. People that work here, they get mad at me because I don't exercise enough. And I wake up every morning and the first thing I do is grab my phone. I'm gonna measure myself pre some of the stuff. My wife does centering prayer every morning. She's been trying to get me to do it with her. So
30 minutes,
try it.
allow your body to naturally wake up that way, and you'll find significant improvements. But so I'm sorry, I kind of went off on mine.
I hope that was fine.
That's what I'm gonna do. You have no changes to make because you're 20-year-old brain. What are you gonna do?
Well, apparently my reaction speed is really slow, right? Isn't that?
That's normal. Totally normal.
Or no, it was my reptilian speed.
Reptile was unbelievably fast.
Yeah. So I've got a very fast reaction speed. Is that how that is?
Physical reaction.
Physical reaction. So I just need to sleep more and exercise more. And
That's what you know. We'll measure again next time we meet.
Cool.
And I just need to manage my stress.
Yes, you do have work to do.
I have a lot of work to do, apparently.
Yes.
It's saddening to see
We all
that
have work
part.
to do.
We all have work to do. Which brings us to the Life to the Max question we love to ask all of our guests, which is the magic wand question. You guys are so focused on brain health here, but if I could give you a magic wand or one wish to do anything in the world, what would it be?
That's me that I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I feel like even like when you ask people that, I'm like, I even think, what would I say this time?
It's a
I know
real
exactly what I
I
would
don't know what I would
say.
say.
Yeah, but it doesn't relate to this, unfortunately.
That's fine. It doesn't
Cold
have
fusion.
Cold fusion?
Yeah, that's right.
I love that one.
Confusion.
I think we can do it.
Yeah.
We got a bad rap.
Limitless clean energy.
Oh, okay.
Water to helium. It's perfect. What could go wrong? Yes.
Catastrophic explosion?
No, it's inert.
That's
It's top funny.
There we go then.
and unfortunately, there was a really horrible movie that I think kind of put cold fusion in a bad light, and it was with Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue. The Saint. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's been recommended to me. I have to watch that.
It was 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. Sorry, Val and Elizabeth. What can I say? All right, cold fusion. I love it. Clean energy for the planet. Awesome.
Then we live to be 150 with clean energy, and then it could be good. It could be a good future.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
No, I'm good. Do you?
No.
Questions? Okay.
No, I mean, we're going to do a lot of follow-up with WAVi, so we're really
Yeah.
excited to partner with you guys on all the things that we've got going at Life to the Max and Race for Forever. I'm very excited for the support that you guys are offering our vets as we really determine whether or not ayahuasca helps with them. So can't wait to share these results with our audience and, more importantly, get them into their physician's office to get a WAVi scan and
Check those brains.
check those brains.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
We love
Awesome.
it. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
having
coming.
I know, thank you for having us here. This has just been such a fascinating day. I love all just everything here. So it's been very amazing and fun. So thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, that was another edition of the Life to the Max podcast with your hosts
Janna Breslin.
and Janna Breslin. No, Evan DeMarco. See, I got to work on my brain. Make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or whatever platform you get your podcast. Give this one a 5-star review. We're going to put the WAVi information in all the show notes. highly recommend that you get out there, find a physician, get on the website, get your brain scan, send us your results. We're going to start an epidemic. We're going to start a movement of figuring out how people can improve their brains, and we want to know how you're doing, what you're doing to improve that, and then let's show the before and after. So
we need the data.
We need the data.
The data. Yes, let's work.
All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. See you next week.
Thank you.